Hi, I'm Nebula Gu, and I'm an actress from Los Angeles, California. I was born in Shanghai, came to the United States when I was 3 years old. My Chinese name means Gu Xing Xing, which means happy star. And my friend and I, we wanted to be creative. When we were 13, we were reading through lots of books. She chose her name from a book, and I chose my name from an astronomy book. I just thought that was really creative and unique, and I changed it legally, completely, since the age of 13. Growing up, I've always had a passion for the performing arts. I was always in the singing groups, choirs, multiple different choral groups. I loved performing. I did some musical skits here and there through high school. I also was able to do a little bit of modeling here and there as well. I accepted Christ when I was in high school. There was a lot of turmoil in my family, which resulted in the divorce of my parents. Many people were involved. It was just difficult being the only child in a family where there were screams and yelling and things being thrown and police knocking on your door almost every week. And I retreated into my studies. I retreated into athletics. I was a cross-country runner, so whenever I would run, it would be a kind of escape. I would just continue to run and continue to endure, because as a cross-country runner, you run for long stretches of time, and your only hope is that you can get through it so that you can reach the end. And I feel like it has become very biblical to me, because I was always running and hoping to get to the end, running with endurance so that, you know, as in the Bible, we'll get the prize, we'll get the crown that will not fade. And I think that God helped me through that period of time by allowing me to be a runner, and especially an endurance and strength runner. So when I would come back home, the numbness would be there, and I would be able to just separate myself from what was going on. Around junior year, I was at the peak of my depression and anxiety through what had happened with my parents and what was happening with our family financially. I was very much at the peak of not wanting to just live, to continue going forward, because I felt I was always being pushed down by my parents and their expectations and their anger and their own sadness through what was happening within our family. And my friend asked me to go to church because she knew that I loved music. She said the worship music is very soothing there. It might be comforting for you. And so I said, sure. I love music, maybe it will be very soothing, maybe it will be peace-giving. And so I sat in with her with many services, just letting the music wash over me. And eventually I decided maybe I'll listen to whatever this guy is saying in the sermon. And so I started listening to the sermon, and the words started sinking in more. And it took some time, because I'm not someone who jumps right into anything without really believing in it. But as I started listening more and the words started being able to process into just my heart, I felt like God spoke to me and He saved me from myself. He showed me that there was still much for me to do, and that I could continue to move forward with joy and having a more positive perspective. But coming from a middle-class family, immigrant family as well, we were very focused on success. So when I went to college, I thought I was there to do business, to be able to be successful, to make my parents proud. Those things haven't changed, but the manner in which I hope to accomplish them has. And so after graduation, I moved to San Francisco to begin my financial career. I felt that finance was going to be stable. I was going to move up the ranks, become a manager. It was everything about what I felt like I should do instead of where my heart was leading me, which was always in the arts and creativity. From music to painting to writing, all of those things I've done since I was a child, and they were just always on the side. Even though they gave me joy, I didn't think that they could give me a career. So at about 2008, I was working in my lovely finance job in San Francisco. I'd had great experiences and some poor experiences as well. I also saw that stability wasn't necessarily the focus of this industry as well. We think that it will give us a steady income, all of those things that we seek. But God showed me when the financial crisis rolled around in 2008 that this wasn't the case. 80% of our team was let go. I was there, but I was given the option of taking the package or being downgraded. So I decided to take the package and be able to move to Los Angeles to be back home with my family. At the end of 2009, I was able to start interviewing right away. But what was interesting at that time, and I could already see God working His hands, His direction, His guidance into my life, was that I would interview at multiple firms, some of the best firms that you could think of. I would get to the third round, and then they would come to me and they would say, "We don't have the budget to hire you anymore," or we're momentarily putting a freeze on this position. It would happen 4 times before I felt completely defeated, before I felt like a failure. I didn't understand what had I done to not be able to continue my career in the career that I thought I wanted. I was focusing more on the fact that, well, I had this education, I had this degree, I should be able to, sustain myself, sustain my family. And I didn't think about what it was that I was actually doing. Granted, I really enjoyed the work environment in terms of my coworkers, but in terms of the work, it wasn't my passion. It wasn't anything that I loved. I did it because I could do it well and efficiently, but there was no love in it. And so at that time, throughout the turmoil of the job search process, I began to really reflect and contemplate and consider just life in general. As I was going through college, I've always been very interested in the arts. I volunteered in the Asian American Theater Company when I was in San Francisco. I helped make numerous short films for my church, and I was in a lot of them as well. And I was a huge proponent, and I always will be, of the Asian American community that was in entertainment, that was online, in different venues, trying to make their mark. I was always supportive. Every time I watched, I just felt this passion bubble up inside me because I knew that I believed in what they were saying, I believed in what they were trying to accomplish, and I really admired them. And so at the time, while I was reflecting with all of this, I realized I really wanted to be also a voice in the Asian American entertainment world. I first started taking classes at East West Players, and I started to meet a lot of different people in the industry. My first audition was actually for a Disney pilot, and I was extremely excited. There were 5 pages of dialogue, and I was very terrified. It was also in the Sunset Gower. It was in the Sunset Gower studio, so I had to go through security. And it felt like I was entering a whole new phase of my life at that point. I had walked through the gates, and it was in this very unfamiliar territory. The audition I thought went all right for being my first, perhaps, studio audition. And after that came much more of a series of commercial auditions, which later on would prove to be extremely fruitful and such a blessing from God. And so I actually signed up for my first ever pageant, the Miss Los Angeles Chinatown pageant. And I placed in the top 4, and we were able to go on many trips, including a trip to China. We went to more than 100 events per year representing the Asian American community. And this just opened up a world of organizations and networks and amazing people that I've had the opportunity to meet. At a certain point, I knew that I had to have a serious conversation with my parents. I came back to Los Angeles to be with my mother, and I was able to, she was able to see me go through all the different auditions, start, getting ramped up in the industry. And eventually I sat her down and we had this very interesting conversation. I said, Mom, I really think that this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I've always loved, just being able to perform. And actually my mom, she's always been very supportive of singing, of my singing. And so I was trying to explain it to her as an extension of performance in that sense. And I think that she was open to it. She was certainly more open to it than my father, who is always consistently pushing and striving towards a stable job. And so, but then I didn't want that to stop me from continuing to pursue my dreams at this point, and I felt like I needed to give it an honest shot. So at that time, I was just doing acting 100%, was going on auditions, and eventually, as I started booking them, as I started to gain income from acting, my mom, she has been one of my greatest supporters. She was actually in a commercial with me for Wells Fargo. They were looking for an older version of me in the commercial, and I of course suggested my mother. And in terms of my father, I would actually say that he has eventually come around. He even suggested that I could probably take my career to Asia if I wanted to, and I was shocked when he said that to me, because just a few months ago, we were having a huge fight about the fact that he wanted me to go back into finance because it was high paying and it was stable. And I was trying to tell him that nothing is stable. Like, nothing is stable when it comes to life and what God wants me to do. And that God is always going to take me where he wants me to be, and not where it's safe and not where it's secure. And so after I was trying to explain that to him, we came to a standstill. So a few months later, when he mentioned that there might be many opportunities for me in that area, in Asia and Shanghai, I was extremely just touched and taken aback by how good God was to be able to change my parents' heart. Also a blessing that happened when I had come down to Los Angeles was that I found a wonderful community of artists, of different creative-minded individuals who are in the media, and also people who weren't as well, in a community called GBS, which stands for Greatest Bible Study. It's just been a huge blessing. I've met some of my closest brothers and sisters through this group of people. Many of them are actors, directors, musicians, just creative people, or people who are seeking to become more creative or become part of the media or entertainment industry. And we're all in this together. We're all trying to get the doors open together. We're all crying out to God together for him to just rain down on Hollywood, rain down on the industry. We're all just praying for him to intercede. And just to be able to do that together in unity has been such a needed, essential experience for me. Moving down to Los Angeles, completely changing my life and my industry, and reevaluating my complete identity as from a professional, more of a yuppie, corporate kind of persona, to someone who's more free, who's more creative, and who has to be able to let herself go to become, different roles. And it's a complete transition, and it's something that God has certainly helped me through. He's helped reaffirm my identity, not in what I do, but in him. And GBS has been a huge part of that process. I've been very lucky because in the past 2 years, God has allowed me to do quite a bit. Lots of commercials, lots of films, lots of web series, a lot of collaborating with amazing people. And I'm still hustling always. I'm still honing my craft in classes. I'm still meeting a lot of different people. I know and I understand what other individuals who may have been in my place are feeling. And I just want to say that take the leap, take the risk, and just trust in God, because it's worth it in the long run. I will say that it hasn't been easy, and there's no way that I will tell any aspiring actor that it's easy, because you will have to pull yourself up many times. You'll always have to come before God and ask him for his comfort and his joy, and above all, his strength. But you'll know that you are doing what he's called you to do. You're being obedient, and you're letting just your own passions and your own just creative desires and your dreams come free.